Good morning, guys. Welcome to today's training. I'm excited to have you here. So, if you don't know me, I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help codependents, people pleasers, and survivors of narcissistic abuse rediscover their happiness by reconnecting to their value, voice, and vision. My clients typically see results within 6 to 8 weeks, and within a year have completely changed their lives. So, there you go. That's my little pitch there. So before we get started, I'm going to share this out to the community. If you're looking for a safe haven, a place you can call home, a place where you'll receive guidance and support and witnesses to your experience, where you find out you're not alone in this experience, join the community. So the community is linked above if you're on Facebook, below if you're on YouTube, and if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you get future trainings, because I produce 3 of them a week typically 3 of them a week. Alright, I've got this shared out to the community now. I'm going to hop back over here. Good morning, guys. Today we're going to talk about a concept. This question that I've asked is your empathy crossing boundaries and hurting you. Now, it's codependents. Those of us that have survived or currently surviving narcissistic abuse, or we've gone through what's called the consumer supply relationship, which is a transactional experience of love. We have to earn love by doing something. We're loved for what we do rather than who we are. We will have developed some codependent components. And one of these elements that tends to show up really, really strongly for us, and something I walked with for a long time, is unboundaried empathy. So your empathy motivates or compels you to get involved in things that aren't healthy for you, to get involved in other people's drama, other people's feelings, other people's problems, other people's consequences. And this is where we become rescuers, fixers, and controllers. This is where we step in with some hubris, to be really honest. There's definitely some arrogance in this, thinking that we know better than they do. We get in there and we think that we should be responsible for regulating their feelings. Now, guys, guess what? If you dealt with a narcissistic parent, an emotionally immature parent, you were actually programmed to regulate their feelings. You were parentified, is the term. And so this is something that's likely been programmed into you by the expectations of your parents, that you're responsible for making them feel better rather than them being responsible for protecting, caring, and nurturing for you. It's a very, very common experience with narcissistic and even codependent parents. They tend to displace their emotions onto others and expect them to regulate. And so be very, very mindful of that, because this is a lot of where this emotional regulation and rescuing comes from, is that we believe, we've been conditioned to believe, that our value is in regulating other people's feelings. This is also where we generate a sense of connection with other people. We feel connected to them through their pain. We feel connected to them through their trouble, through their suffering, through their past. And this is a term I call wound bonding. It's where we bond with each other based on our mutual experience. Like, I have had relationships in the past where the individual, the woman and I that I was dating, we shared a very strong mutual experience based on our past, and so we bonded around the pain of our past. That's a wound bonding. Some people call it trauma bonding, but it's technically not that. But what's really interesting is empathy that's not boundaried will lead to genuine trauma bonding, which is where you fall in love with the abuser. You have a chemical addiction to the abuser, and you're enmeshed. Your identity is partially enmeshed with them. Your sense of value is in them and stuff like that. And that's because it comes back to this connection that we generate with another person because of their pain, or because of our job, our internalized expectation of regulating other people's feelings equals I have value. I have meaning, a purpose if I can make you feel better. This is the genesis of one of those big codependent fantasies, that we can change others, we can fix others. And this gets us in this perpetual loop of undue tolerance, of taking care of other people who are literally and legitimately abusing us and harming us and pulling us down. So we have to be really mindful here, guys, that Your empathy isn't wrong or bad or unhealthy. But if you allow your empathy to push you into situations where you're caught in a drama cycle, you're caught in a rescue or victim tantrum cycle, there's another word there for it, but I don't remember what it is, it puts you into a codependent cycle with an abuser. It puts you into other people's business. It prevents other people from receiving the consequence they've earned with their behaviors. Your empathy is not boundaried, and it needs to be bridled. So I've got some tips here. I need to pull up my little document here. Yeah, I've got some tips here that can help you bridle this empathy and create boundaries around it, okay? So first of all, I want you to understand that unbridled or unboundaried empathy is an attempt to meet need through the connection we generate with the other individual. And there's 10 core needs every human being has. And for people who are in the Fawn State, and their brain is in the fawn mode, which means they're attempting to become appealing to a person that they're bonded with so that that person doesn't throw them away or discard them, get into what's called the discard trauma there. This is when they move into that empathy and getting outside their boundaries and trying to control and regulate their emotions. So 10 fundamental needs that people are attempting to meet through this. We all have these needs. Being accepted, having attention given to us, being valued, being respected, being nurtured, having availability to them so that there's space and connection with them, having their time, feeling safe, having a sense of rest and play. When I was unbridled empathetically, I was attempting to meet all these needs by fixing other people's feelings, by getting there and inserting myself in other people's drama, by interfering with consequence. This was huge because this kept me in toxic relationships for years, for decades really, because you'd intercede, you'd interfere with the consequence, thus becoming an enabler of the abuser. Did this for my stepmother all the time. She would place me between me and people that she has harmed by triggering my empathy for her pain that she legitimately deserved to have because of the pain she caused someone else. Talk about a mind fuck. Because when that clicked in my head about 8 years ago, I'm like, oh, no wonder people kept coming up to me and saying, Marshall, your stepmother is using you. Marshall, you need to stop. You need to see what your stepmother's doing to you right now. I mean, church members would come up to me and tell me this all the time. It also explained why there was this weird behavior that would start when we moved to a new area, because my parents would move on the fly. And I found out it's because they were stealing people's money. So, good times there. But this is how my empathy was used to protect her and thus enable her. It's very, very important because I wanted her attention. I wanted her approval. I wanted her love. I wanted to feel safe too, because that woman was a tyrant. And so that's how I accomplished that. And it trained me to get involved in other people's problems in ways that ended up harming me and them. And really, really inappropriate things happened that were not good for them or me. So unbridled empathy can lead to a lot of pain. So how do we manage this? How do we actually bridle and boundary this empathy so that it can be used in its most healthy way, in a way that's genuine to who we really are, genuine to our value, voice, and vision? Well, first of all, you got to know what your value really is and what your voice really is and what your vision really is, so you know how to direct that empathy, because empathy is part of your voice, but it needs to be governed by your core values, by your innate value, and by the vision you have. And so if you're struggling with that component in your life, the happiness strategy is the solution there, because I take you through a 13-week process that connects you back to your value, cultivates the experience of that value, which ignites your voice. I teach you how to listen and follow that voice, which reveals the vision. I teach you how to receive that vision and follow it, bring it into fruition. So I'm accepting students in that right now, so you can click the link above on Facebook, below on YouTube for the masterclass. Take the masterclass, and then you can enroll through that if you find it to be appropriate for you. All right, so here's some tips on how to boundary your empathy, starting with that value, voice, and vision. But we also have some other tips here. 1, say no to helping others when you're feeling empty and drained. You need to respect your own emotional capacity, your own energetic capacity, your own limits there. Because compelled empathy is going to burn you out, and it's going to make you hungrier for other people's attention and connection, which is going to then compound you to do more empathetic things, because if that's your means for connection, that's what you're going to do, right? So you got to start saying no to helping when you're feeling empty. And you got to start implementing something very opposite to empathy. Well, it's not really opposite, it's just not empathy, okay? You got to go out and play. You got to go out and enjoy your life, despite the pain, despite the experiences other people are having. You have a right to your own joy, despite other people not having theirs right now. You have a right to be happy, even though other people aren't. That's part of personal autonomy. That's part of right number 1, called the right to occupy space. You have the right to be happy, even though others aren't. Okay? Is this making sense? Let me know in the comments what you think and what's coming up for you in this. So, number 1, say no when you're empty. 2, play more in your life despite the pain other people may be experiencing. Prioritize your needs first over others. Very important boundary. You have to know what you can contribute without hurting yourself before you can actually contribute in a way that works. Because what's healthy for you is healthy for everyone else involved. That's the way healthiness works. That's the way love works. If it's healthy and loving to me, it will be healthy for everyone else involved. So if I have to say no to something and that's my healthiness, then it's healthy for them too. Because unless we're dealing with a child who does not have resources, then we can step in and help them build resources. But generally, adults, I call them grown-ass adults for a reason, guys. They're grown-ass adults. They should be taking care of their needs. If they've got a need, they should be learning how to step out and deal with this. Which means they'll be asking for help. They'll be seeking help. They'll be looking for professionals to help them. And you aren't that professional, okay? You aren't that resource. You can direct them to professionals to get the help they need, but you should not be stepping up into that and rescuing them from themselves. They need to do their work, and they need to have the guidance, the structure of a professional in that regard, okay? So this is a really big boundary for those of you in relationships with people that you're trying to fix or rescue. You need to step back and let them deal with their consequences and figure out their own path forward. Now you can say, hey, I know some therapists or whatnot that have worked for me. You can go there and talk with them, but you don't do anything beyond that. You don't schedule it. You don't call the therapist for them. You don't do the work. The person seeking the work needs to do the work. Okay? So you need to prioritize your need first, then you need to step out of any effort to rescue, fix, or control another. So when you find this impulse trying to fix or control or rescue another from their own problems, that's when you stop. It's like, nope, I can't do that right now. I need to go and play. I need to go meet my needs somewhere else. Okay? I need to learn how to nourish my needs outside the empathy codependent spectrum. Okay? Now, I'm not saying by combining those two terms, I'm not saying empathy and codependency are the same thing, because they're not, but unboundaried empathy will be a codependent component. All right. You need to allow others to face the consequences of their actions. Period. They need their consequences. Consequences are teachers. Let them learn their lessons. And if they don't learn their lesson, they're going to have another opportunity pretty quick after that. Let them face the consequences of their choices so they can learn. Get out of the way of consequences. Stay out of the drama other people create for themselves. If you're kind of a drama junkie like me, I watch The Bachelor or reality TV sometimes to get my little fix on that. It's helped me out a lot in staying out of people's drama. And then I need to choose my well-being first. You need to choose your well-being first. And I need to know what that is. You need to know what that is. If you don't know what your well-being is, you need to start there. It's like, what generates love and joy, peace, and health in my life? What brings me into more of my playful, creative nature, into the brilliance that I be? And then you need to realize that 99% of the problems out there in the world are not your responsibility. Okay? Other people are going to make their choices and they're going to screw their lives up. Let them do that. Get out of the way. You don't have any right to be there anyway. You're not an authority. You don't have any responsibility there. Let them do their thing. So if you focus on your goals and your desires for your happiness the majority of the time, you're going to naturally be out of this enmeshment that you create when you're compelled by empathy to get into other people's trauma. So you're really focused back on your value, voice, and vision and the direction your life wants to go, then you're not going to be involved in this. So focusing on that's really, really important. You need to respect the feelings of others and let them regulate their own emotions. Okay? Just because someone's upset or sad or depressed or angry or lonely or empty doesn't mean you have to be too. And it doesn't mean you have to step in there at all. One thing you can do is check in with yourself and say, is this something I want to contribute to right now? Does this bring me joy right now? Does this uplift me to uplift them? If you get an answer of yes, then you ask them, hey, what do you need right now? Can I sit with you? I can listen. I can reflect back. But notice that I'm not saying you're fixing anything. You're not regulating anything. You're just providing space and a witness to their journey. That's healthy. But only when you're willing to do that. Respect your boundaries. Okay? Now, another tip here is to understand that being aware of someone else's problem or pain does not mean you're responsible for it. So awareness does not equal responsibility. When you respect that, you're going to discover boundaries real fast, and you're going to discover your voice, your genuine voice that empowers your empathy. Because there are going to be appropriate times where empathy is not the appropriate response for someone. Sometimes they need a direct confrontation. Maybe it's like, hey, you keep choosing this. I'm sorry, but this, I know it sucks, but you keep choosing this. So this is no longer about you and your innocence or in a victim cycle. You're now choosing it. You've got to get conscious about this and confront yourself on this so you can stop this cycle. This is something that I encounter a lot as a mentor, especially people dealing with love addiction. There's a point in the work we do together where I'm like, now you know what you're choosing, you know the pain it causes, you know what they do, so now you're accountable for your choice if you go back. I don't mean I'm going to cut you off or anything. It just means, hey, I'm going to point it out. I'm going to say, yep, and you're choosing this pain again and again and again. This is on you now. You're no longer innocent. You're choosing this. It's a really important place because we have to become properly boundaried. We have to own our choices. We have to own our actions. And we have to own our impulses and inclinations. If we don't do that, we're going to just kind of like, whoa, I'm going to go follow into my feelings. I'm just feeling this way. No. Nope. You know where this is going. You know what this is. So the pain that you're now choosing this pain. So now there's going to be this bluntness from me when that happens. You got to own what you're choosing when you become conscious about it. So you got to discover who you are beyond that empathy response as well. There's so much more to you than just the empathy response. There's brilliance and creativity. There's boredom. There's joy. There's passion. There's vision. There's rest. There's humor. There's play. And there's so much more to you than that. And then you need to acknowledge when you don't actually care. So there's two rights I teach. And the first right is the right to occupy space. The second right is the right not to care. This is not to be confused with the right that I shouldn't care, because that right doesn't exist. The right not to care means you now have permission to access whether or not you actually care about this particular thing or situation going on. Because sometimes we don't care, and that's okay. Sometimes it's like, yeah, well, that's what happens when you do that. I'm sorry, it sucks. But you gotta start checking in with yourself and start becoming accountable with yourself. See? So I care more about the well-being of the person, but that can come across as like, I'm not going to employ my empathy here. I'm going to confront about this issue. It's really, really important to understand. So these little tips can help you boundary your empathy and get more in contact with your genuine voice so that you know where to apply that empathy appropriately. So my big question for you in today's training is, where are you applying empathy there it does not belong? What boundaries do you need to start instituting around your empathy so it becomes boundaried and it starts adding to your life rather than becoming a destructive force in your life? And what needs do you have that you're getting met through empathy that you can meet through other means? Okay? So I want you to explore those questions, discover that, and let's see where that takes you today. Okay, guys? I appreciate you. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. And if you're ready to take control of your happiness, really deeply heal so that you no longer have unboundaried empathy, but you have boundaried empathy, and you also have control of your happiness again in your life, then take the masterclass on the happiness strategy. Join us in the happiness strategy and discover for yourself your own value, voice, and vision, and the brilliance that you be. You guys have a great day. I will see you for tomorrow's training. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.